All right, we are live now, I think. Yeah. Let me just check the number of participants so far before we start. 4 participants. We'll wait for about 10 seconds, then we'll start. But we are live. Good evening, everyone. I'm Anand from GMATWhiz, your host. And today I have with me Sonali and Nikhil, who will take us with their journey of their MBA application experience. Sonali will talk about Duke MBA from the US, and Nikhil will help us understand which country should we choose for our MBA. Why is the combination of geography, which is country, and your school is really important for your MBA decision. So let's get started with that. And so we have 3 sections of this webinar. The first section is about 5 minutes or 2 to 5 minutes, in which I'll tell you about GMATWhiz platform and who we are. Then comes the main section, which lasts about 45 to 60 minutes. Today, this section is divided into 2 parts. First is about deciding on the geography for your MBA, which Nikhil will take. And the second will be with Sonali, which is focused on Duke MBA program today. And the third section is about you, in which we will take all of your questions and try to answer every question that you have. So GMATWhiz is the world's only truly personalized course when it comes to your GMAT preparations. So what does truly personalized means? It means that the AI at the back end of GMATWhiz GMAT course, it suggests a personalized study plan for you. And then as you take the course, as your performance improves, it suggests it tells you what kinds of improvements you're making, what are your weak areas, and which kind of questions you need to practice more. And it also suggests a study plan which is personalized for you, and it can help you track your progress on different topics. And it also lays down the time duration in which you should be finishing your GMAT preparation and looking at taking the final exam. So, based on this AI, when our students prepare, then they have seen an average of more than 100 points of increment in their GMAT preparations. And when we compare it with our competitors, then you can see that this course really helps you gain a lot more points than any other course out there. So let's dive into today's topic for the session. What are we here for? So today's major focus areas are that we will talk about choosing the right country for your MBA. Then we will during Sonali's part, we will talk about how a different background before your MBA can actually help you to get into one of the top MBA programs in the world. And then we'll talk about what parameters you should be checking before you select your B school. And we'll talk about Duke's application process. How is it different from some other schools, and what you should be focusing on while writing this application? And what kind of career opportunities do you have after Duke MBA? And then your Q&A. So with that, I'll hand over to Nikhil.
Yeah, sure. I'll share my screen. All right. Hi, guys. My name is Nikhil. I am going to ESA Business School in 1 month from now. So today I will help you understand, first of all, I'll help you understand how to select the schools to apply. And then we'll deep dive into how geography plays an important part, or what are the parameters on which you should decide on which geography to choose. So I've made a funnel here. If you see, let's say you can start with your FT rankings to see the number of schools that are available for you in your bucket. And then you first of all have to decide on the geography that you want to apply to. And that, for the sake of example, let's say we have around 50 schools in the beginning from FT ranking, or any source that you would want to follow. And once you decide on the geography, you sort of bring it down to 15 schools. And I'll deep dive into how to really decide on a particular geography. What are the parameters that impact the selection of a geography? So let's say we have 15 schools now, and now comes the part where you do your primary research, which is going to the school's website, reading blogs, going to the YouTube sessions of those schools, and understand what are the average scores that are required to get into school, what are the career options that are available post the MBA from that particular school, or is the school matching to the goals that you have. The schools would have some goal, and you would have some goals. Are those two matching? That's where you decide on, or that's where you filter the rest of from these 15 schools, let's say. uh, other parameters here can be the class size, or the cost of MBA for that particular school. So parameters like these can help you in filtration at point number two, right? After that comes a very important part. When you have around 10 schools, when you have filtered them to around 10 schools, now is the time you really need to talk to current students or alumni of that particular school. The reason being, when you go to the website of the school or when you read the blogs of a particular school, they are published by the school, and they are the B schools. They know how to market themselves, right? They will market themselves in the best possible way. So to know real sense of that particular school, or the offerings that the school can give you, the best way to do that is to talk to students. Reach out to them on LinkedIn, or there are so many other platforms. You can use Mentoroni to connect with current students or alumni and talk to them. That is going to give you the real sense of what the school is about. For instance, for ESA, when I talked to around five people from ESA, that's when I realized that this is the school that I want to go to. There are so many things that I could relate to when people talked about ESA to me. So this is, for me, is like the most important parameter, where you can understand, or where you can filter down the number of schools that you want to apply to, let's say to six. And that's when you apply to school, um, build up your application, write the essays that the schools are looking for. And here also, in the application phase also, since you have talked to so many students of that particular school, you would know what the school really wants, or is it matching to your requirements, and you know what to present to the schools. H- Here I also feel sometimes taking help of some admission consultants help. I took help of one of the admission consultants. It helped me. But in some cases, just talking to students and understanding what the school wants can do the magic for you. And yes, in the end, you don't know how much conversion that you are going to do, but that's the aim, that you get at least one admit from your dream school, and reach where you want to go. Now we'll jump on to the second, the second part which we wanted to discuss, was how to really decide on the geography, right? So on the geography, for me, there were around six different parameters that you need to evaluate on. So there's no one particular answer on saying, you know what, go to US for your MBA, or go to Netherlands for your MBA. There's no one particular answer for that. It really depends upon person, what they want in their life. But what I can tell you right now is what are the parameters that you should consider while choosing a specific geography. So the very first parameter is the career opportunities that you're going to have, right? So, for instance, to give an example, US might have better opportunities than Europe in the technology sector. The same goes for India. So if that's my personal opinion on this. If you're talking about technology, US might have better opportunities than Europe and then India. And but if you, let's say, talk about financial sector, maybe UK has better opportunities than rest of the mainland in Europe, and so on and so forth. So the career opportunities are really important while deciding the geography that you want to get into. Whatever aspirations, whatever goals that you have, see if that geographic location is able to fulfill those goals. It might be possible that you want to get into a country, but the goal that you want to achieve cannot be fulfilled, or the career that you want to choose cannot be fulfilled in that particular geography. So that's first parameter. The second parameter, for instance, why I chose Europe over US or over India, is the work-life balance. I have been working in Europe from last 2 years. I've been working in Netherlands, and I love the work-life balance over here. And I have talked to so many people. I worked in India like around for 5 years. Then I worked here for 2 years. I talked to so many people who are working in US. What I realized that the work-life balance here in Europe is best among these three geographic locations, right? So that was one of the reasons I wanted to stay here. The work ethics that we have here in Europe, the work-life balance that you get here in Europe is better than probably both the places. So that was another parameter that was important to me. Then comes the part of the salaries. For some, this can be really important. Doing an MBA is an expensive affair. So, absolutely, this is something that needs to be taken care of to understand the return on investment. General trend would look like this: US would have better salaries than Europe, and Europe would have better salaries, let's say, than India, right? Yeah, there's not a lot to put here, but what you need to do is to go to the employment reports of your target schools and understand the kind of salaries that are being offered in your school by your target companies. So that can help you take that decision on if the salaries that are offered, let's say in Europe, make sense to you, or if the salary that are offered in India, are they making sense to you? So I know this looks like US is paid more than Europe than India, but if you see, I mean, that's and this particular thing that Europe is the salaries in Europe are more than what you get in India is more or less to do with the conversion rate. You get wonderful salaries in India as well for the lifestyle that you would want to maintain in India. You get great salaries in India as well. So there's a bit of caveat here that's probably because of the conversion rate. And if you take into account the parity, you get great salaries in India as well. So that's another factor that you can think of while choosing your MBA. If you are really after getting like good amount of salary, maybe US is something that you are looking forward to, because in Europe you get decent salaries but not a lot. Another parameter which is like different, especially in these three geographic locations, which is the diversity in the school or outside the school when you talk about working in companies. What I've seen that diversity in Europe is way more than US, and in diversity in US is way more than what you get in India. Uh, for instance, at ESA, you have people from around 80 different nationalities. And the company that I work in, I have people from around 90 different nationalities who are working with me. And if you really honor the diversity factor, then maybe Europe is something that you are looking forward to. Um, and why is diversity important? Now, that's another question: is do we really have to look on the diversity factor? Do we really have to look for a diverse classroom? At least after working in a company where there were people from 90 different nationalities, I was able to understand that the importance of diversity, the kind of uh, different work ethics that you come across, the kind of different approaches to solve a particular problem you come across after meeting so many people from diverse nations. I mean, that's just amazing. That's just amazing to know. And the perspective that they bring in certain discussions, it's just amazing to know. And when you are looking for an MBA, essentially you're looking to become a global leader. And when you're looking to become a global leader, I guess it's important for you to understand how different cultures behave and what are the small nuances of being comfortable with a diverse set of people, right? So hence diversity was really important for me. And I feel schools in Europe has way more diverse classrooms than any other geographic locations, and hence like Europe was or ESA was one of my uh, first choices to get into. uh, Fifth point, which is important, is immigration or ease of movement, or I'll also put language here, right? um, in US you don't face the problem of language, but in Europe you face that. In some part, there are some parts of Europe where English is prevalent, and you, for instance, in Netherlands, English is like widely spoken, and you don't face that challenge a lot. But there are some areas, for instance, Spain is definitely a place where English is not that prevalent, and you face the problem of not knowing the local language. But the good part of doing an MBA in any part of Europe is that once, let's say, even if you do an MBA from Spain, from Netherlands, the whole of Europe is idly open to you. So I would, being an since I don't know the native language, I don't know this, the Spanish language, I would prefer moving back to, let's say, Netherlands or going to UK or some parts of Germany where English is spoken um, at a good number, and language would not be a problem. But if that is something that bothers you a lot, if you are looking for other areas other than these three nations, then maybe and you are not so comfortable with local languages, or you don't want to learn the local language, maybe Europe is not something, the area that you are looking forward to, then US is definitely something that you can think of, or you can think of doing that in India, right? Talking about immigration, most of the companies, they are going, when they are going to hire you from your MBA schools, they are going to sponsor your visas. uh, that happens in Europe, but in US that's probably not the case. Uh, there is always an uncertainty of whether the visa will be extended or not. I have seen people who have stayed there forever, but I've also seen people who had to come back or move to Europe from US because their visa was expired and they were not able to renew their visa. So that's another important factor to look into. The sixth part is lifestyle. It's more to do with what sort of uh, do you get work life balance, or what sort of lifestyle you want to maintain. uh, for instance, after coming to Europe, I realized that there are certain things I had to compromise on that on what I did in India. So there is a difference of lifestyle for sure. um, Now, which country has a better lifestyle or which country has a worse lifestyle, that's very subjective to what you want, what sort of lifestyle you are looking forward to. Maybe lifestyle in India is better suited for you than lifestyle in US or Europe. So very subjective question. But it's an important parameter to keep into account. If the lifestyle that is being offered to you in a European nation, is that something that you will be comfortable with, and is that something that you want for the rest of your life, then feel free to choose Europe. So yeah, these are the six parameters I feel are important for choosing a particular MBA school. Uh, Feel free to push in your questions in the comment section if you have any questions around this. Um, that's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikhil, for going into the detail of this analysis. Uh, so, guys, Nikhil has really shared the in-depth knowledge which comes after actually getting into the MBA programs. I would like to add one more point, which some people may not feel too important, but it is important. That is weather. So
Yeah.
people coming from India and coming from warm countries, they might feel that weather is not a big challenge. But once you, for example, if you go to Canada and then you have to live in snow for most of the year, then that becomes a challenge for you. And if you don't like rains, then Western Europe might become a challenge for you. And similarly, like different parts of the US have different kinds of weather, so that should also be one of the factors you should be looking at, because this MBA changes your life in a different direction. And once you move to a country and only after moving there you realize that maybe you're allergic to something, and so you should be considering that. And so I'll just reiterate all the points which Nikhil shared. Career opportunities, yes, every country offers uh, different kinds of career specialization when you talk about growing in the industry. So, for example, if you really want to excel in IT, then then Indian MBA or going to the US definitely make a lot of sense to you for you. And if you're more towards supply chain and manufacturing and finance, then Europe makes much more sense for you. And and work life balance is definitely the best in the Western Europe. That's what even I feel. And but having said that, it's the trade off that you want to make. So whether you want to care for work life balance, or you want to grow to a certain level in an industry of your choice which is not here, so that is up to you to decide. And salaries are much higher in the US, and salaries being higher in the US, the cost of living there is are lesser. So your savings will be much higher in the US. Your savings in the US will be about at least 25% higher than what they will be in the EU. Or uh, and about India, we all already know. So in India also, like if you're a graduate from a top B school, then your savings are really high. And diversity in the school is really important, because once you, for example, if you have to lead a team of 10 people who come from 10 different countries, you wouldn't know how to interact with them. You wouldn't know what drives them. So that is why do focus on diversity in your B school, because your MBA is going to prepare you for that. And immigration, no matter how easy or how difficult it sounds, but it really becomes a challenge. For example, in the Netherlands, when people have to look for the job, they really go and find the list of all the employers who sponsor the visas, because they might be spending their energy in wrong direction by applying to those companies which do not really sponsor the visa. So if you're planning to go for the for US MBAs, then try to apply for the STEM programs, which in which you have more number of chances to get the H-1B visa. And lifestyle, although Western Europe has higher high living standards, but it comes at the cost of higher taxes and lower salaries. So that is again something for you to choose. And don't discount weather, because that if you are someone who likes longer summer or something, then maybe choose accordingly. And thank you again, Nikhil, very much for sharing your experience with us and with the audience here. And
You're welcome.
with that, I'll invite Sonali here with us. Uh,
Right.
Yeah, so
Hi.
let's move on to Duke. And before that, I would like to share that this session is brought to you in collaboration with Mentoroni, uh, along with GMATWhiz. Mentoroni is an initiative by the students from top B schools around the world, who come together to help the students and guide the B school aspirants for their admission strategy, and helping them in the GMAT and GRE the GRE exams, and also to guide them where to get the counseling from if they want to apply to the top schools. And and whatever proceeds are generated through this collaboration are shared with the social organizations to fight against COVID in India. So we accept the donation, then we find the mentors, and then we then we create this platform in which you can on which you can book your appointment with these mentors. So make sure to check out the Mentoroni platform, guys. And with that, let's start with Sonali. So who is Sonali? Sonali is a musician and songwriter, and she also owns a boutique record label. And she has been constantly on the road, managing diverse cross-functional teams and crafting creative solutions to complex problems. And now she is going to attend Duke Fuqua MBA to expand her skill set and to start a career in consulting. Hello, Sonali. How are you?
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. Doing very well. It is early in the morning for me in Durham, North Carolina right now. It's about
And
10. It's not that early.
all right. So, and how has been your MBA journey so far? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and how are you feeling in the MBA program? How long it has been, and
Yeah.
how's the experience?
Absolutely. So I just finished my first week of school at Fuqua. It has been quite a whirlwind. They really threw us in there and fully immersed us. So it's been overwhelming, but also really exciting. I already feel like I've learned so much. Anand and Nikhil were talking a lot about diversity. I can personally say I've never been in a room with so many global perspectives before. And I think that it's just immensely valuable. So I definitely encourage all of you to seek out an environment like that.
Thank you, Sonali. So, with that, we'll start with our Q&A with Sonali about her Duke MBA and about her MBA journey also. So the first question is that you are shifting, you're trying to make a shift in your career from being an artist to a consultant. So I would want to know why this shift, because most people want to do the other way around, right? They are in a boring corporate life, and they aspire to become either a movie star or a musician. So why this shift, Sonali?
Right, fair question. It's a big change. So, I mean, for me personally, I always knew I wanted to go and get my MBA at some point. I admittedly did think it would be a little bit later. I was thinking maybe when I was was like 30. That's when I'd go for my MBA. Then COVID happened, and as I'm sure you're all well aware, the entertainment industry just completely shut down. There wasn't much to do, and I spent a couple months pretty much just sitting there. There's only so many Instagram live concerts you can do before both you and your audience don't care anymore. So I decided it would make sense to move that timeline up and go ahead and pursue my MBA now. And then in terms of why consulting, it did take me a little bit to fully settle in on that option. But there are more similarities between consulting and music than you would think. And a lot of them are things I outlined on that first slide. So one, I'm used to traveling and I like it. I'm used to working with different teams and working on different projects. You know, each album is like a different project. Granted, it's all within the entertainment industry, and consulting, when you start off, you usually do start in a generalist model, depending on the firm. But I like that variety. I'm definitely excited by the chance to have that steep learning curve and move quickly. And I honestly think there's more parallels than what might meet the eye on the surface.
Thank you for sharing that, Sonali. So as you said, that the career of the consulting industry or the career are like more or less similar to that of a musician. And just to comment on that, I do have some of my friends here who work in Accenture Consulting, and they are alumni from my school, and all of them are really good musicians, but that's their hobby, and they formed a band there, and they call themselves Consultants of Swing.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, I think about consultants that I've noticed, everyone is really diverse. And a lot of firms that I've been researching, they have like home office bands and things like that. I mean, there's definitely plenty of opportunity to keep doing music, which I plan on doing.
All right. Thank you very much. And now the next question will be, what are the key advantages of MBA for a candidate with a diverse background such as yours? Like what MBA really adds to you, because you already have different kind of experiences for which people come for an MBA. You already have been making a mark for yourself by selling your concerts and by networking with different kind of people, and these are some of the skills which candidates learn during their MBA. So what kind of value does this MBA program add to you?
Yeah, so two approaches I want to take here. One, what can I, as a diverse candidate, get from this experience? And also, how does having that diverse background help me here? So first off, a lot of my business knowledge has come kind of from on-the-job training, which is great. And it's also difficult because you don't have a long time frame to learn. You just kind of get thrown in this experience and you have to rise quickly. So I would like a more formal setting to learn this, especially when it comes to core classes like accounting and finance and things like that. Also, my experience has been solely through me as an artist, right? And as we mentioned on the first slide, I operated a boutique record label, but that's all kind of on a small scale. So seeing how this scales to a large company and in a different industry would be really valuable for me. So that's definitely one thing I want to get out of it. And then for me personally, consulting, casing, I've never done that before. And I know that's like a whole world that I haven't even been immersed in. So definitely a lot of reasons for someone like me to go get their MBA. And then in terms of how does my background help me in the MBA application process, I think, as I'm sure all of you know, it's very difficult and stressful to go through this MBA applications. And one of the hardest things about it is there's a lot of really, really qualified people vying for the same limited number of spots, and you're trying to figure out a way to stand out. So already, if you have something like you're a musician or you're an athlete or just something that's a little bit less traditional, you're already doing that job of standing out. There's guaranteed not going to be a ton of candidates like you, if even at all. I mean, there's not anyone there are musicians, but there's not anyone with my background in my class. So like probably around 500 people. So that's one thing that helps you out. The flip side to that is you're not in a traditional environment where you can easily show things like your quantitative or your academic skills. So you want to make sure that you can show that in some other way on your application, whether that's through your undergraduate GPA or your test scores or anything you're involved in with extracurricular activities. And that is another thing I would like to address, actually. If there are any weaknesses in your application, which you can find that out, what your own personal thoughts are. You can hire an admissions consultant. You can have friends and family look it over. if there are any weak spots in your application, you are in full charge to fix that before you apply. And there is no limit to what you can do. For example, for me, I was nervous that I hadn't taken any math courses until, since high school, really. I didn't have to take any in undergrad because I tested out. So I was very nervous that they would think that I just don't know how to do math anymore. So there are math courses online. So you can go ahead, take them, send your transcripts, and avoid that before it even becomes a problem. That was just my personal experience. I'm sure a lot of you have taken math classes, but whatever it is, nobody is the perfect candidate, but whatever it is, you can supplement your application. So go ahead and do that. Another thing there is you bring a different perspective, right? I know for Fuqua especially, and I'm sure this is the case across business schools, they really are looking for diverse perspectives. They don't want a bunch of people who are all coming from finance or all coming from consulting, because that's really boring if we're all so uniform. So when you bring that diverse job perspective in, that's another thing that really helps you stand out.
Right. Thank you for sharing that, Sonali. So if we were to summarize that, then there would be two kinds of advantages. First advantage is that the skills that you learn on the go while being an artist or while being someone from a different background, then those skills are transferable skills, not in terms that you can transfer those skills to somebody else, but you can apply the same skills to the business problems in which you face during your MBA program. So that is one advantage, that you try to brush up those skills. And the second advantage is that you can stand out as a candidate. Right. So we are getting some questions from Rahul and Ankit. Guys, just hold on a little bit. We will have a proper Q&A session, and we'll try to answer each and every question that you have over there. So we will get back to you just after this, towards the end of the session. Just hold on to your questions. So moving on, Sonali. So what are the key factors specific to a particular B school or to a group of schools at which candidates should look while they shortlist their B schools, while they make a list of schools they're applying to? So what are some of the factors which you look at, and what would you suggest to the audience?
So for me, culture was probably one of the biggest things that I thought about. I didn't want the kind of B school experience where it was very individualized and competitive. And that was something I was kind of nervous about when I started applying, because I just kind of thought that that's how all MBAs would be, which has absolutely not been my experience here. But there are certain schools that lend themselves to that more team-based approach, and Fuqua is absolutely one of them. And very early on in my research, I kept seeing this thing called Team Fuqua, and if any of you are interested in Duke, I'm sure you've seen it a number of times. And it is not just a marketing slogan, which it might look like to you. It's very, very real, and that was evident from the first time I had an interaction with somebody from Fuqua when I was a prospective student. So Nikhil already spoke about the value of connecting with students during your application process, and I wholeheartedly support that. It's really, really important, because that's the way you can see, what is actually true about a school. That's where you get those specific insights, and that's what you want to put in your application too, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, so definitely culture is a big one. Location is big as well. Nikhil already did a comprehensive job about talking about all those things. So I won't repeat that, but I do second the weather. It's more important than you would think. You're going to live somewhere for a long time, for 2 years of your life. And if you are miserably cold or hot or whatever it is, it will impact your experience in a negative way. So might sound silly. Don't discount it though. And the other thing you want to look at is the track record. So what are your professional goals, and does the school have a strong track record in placing candidates there? And if they don't, do they have something in place, or do they have resources to help you? So for me, Fuqua is really known for consulting. Granted, I wasn't 100% certain I wanted to do consulting when I was applying, which is okay. You don't have to really 100% be locked in on your post-MBA career goals. If you don't have them yet, that's okay. But you do want to at least then make sure, if you're not solid on your goals, that you're going to a school that's pretty well-rounded, and can place you where you want to end up, because that's why you're going to B school usually, right? You're going to land a specific job. What else? Class size is important. I think if you go, we probably have 400 or 500 of us, and we're a big class this year because there were a lot of deferrals last year because of COVID. For some people, that might sound huge. For some people, that's nothing. It depends what you want. So take that into account. And of course, rankings are important. I think sometimes we place a little bit too much importance on them. You want to make sure that you're picking a school for all the right reasons, which are some of the things I've listed there. There's probably even more, but to consider rankings as well. Just maybe don't make them your number one choice.
Thank you, Sonali. So, guys, as Sonali said, that rankings shouldn't be the only thing that you should be looking at, because I'm sure many others would also agree with me. And it is not wrong to say that at times rankings are used more as a marketing tool than as a standard of benchmarking the schools, right? So, look for what you really want to do after your MBA and talk to a bunch of people from all of the schools you want to go, uh, and then decide which school makes a better fit for you. Just don't go for the schools where you just see a higher ranking, or on the school's website you see a higher average salary, because that is the mean. And if you know a little bit about statistics, mean never really gives you an accurate picture of the entire population, right? So look at location, all the companies, what kind of companies they recruit from those institutes, and then how the careers in your target industries come from happen from that school. And then culture is really really important. For example, if you focus a lot on sustainability, and then you go to a school which is focusing on oil and gas, then probably you'll not find the right fit for yourself. And class size is really important. If you think that you don't want to be interacting with a lot of people, then go to some schools which have 40, 50, 60, or 100 students in the class. And if you want to interact with a lot of people, go to schools with 300, 400, 500, or up to 800 people in a class. So look at everything and then make the decision. Thank you very much, Sonali, for sharing these points with us. So moving on to the next question. What kind of different schools should a candidate keep while deciding on the list of schools that he or she is going to apply?
So you'd want there to be some common threads between the schools that you're applying to. For example, if you're all about team-based culture, so you're applying to schools like Fuqua and Darden and things like that, and then you also start applying to schools that really are individualized, that's not really consistent. That doesn't really make sense, right? So there should be some sort of commonality there between what you're applying to. And the other thing I would say is do have a safety net. I think you should always aim as high as you possibly can, but if that for some reason doesn't work out, you don't want to be caught in the situation where you didn't get in anywhere. And I have seen that happen, unfortunately, and it's really disappointing. So just cast a wide net, have different options, and things always do work out for a good reason. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but just cast a wide net, be safe, and you will not regret that later on.
Thank you for sharing that, Sonali. So speaking about safety net, how safe should a person play? Like what should be, if I'm targeting A, which is ranked at let's say X rank, then how lower should my safety net colleges be?
I guess it probably to some extent depends on your stats, such as test scores and things like that. If you are consistently falling in the averages for those, like let's say top 10 schools, I don't think you need to go like super down. And here's an example of where you want to look at rankings. You don't want them to govern your entire application process by any means, but this is where rankings can help guide you with that safety net. But it's so subjective. It's difficult to say. One thing that I did was and I applied in a rush because I made a snap decision to do this. So if I were going back and applying this year, I would definitely do it a lot slower and take my time. But I applied to my target schools in round one. I knew where I would apply round two if I didn't get in. Fortunately, I got into Fuqua and I didn't need to go through with that process and saved myself a lot of time and money on applications. But that is one thing I would consider because they are really time intensive to do all these applications. So I personally would not want to try and cram in 8 different applications plus all my safety nets do all this in round one. I wouldn't have had time. I'm sure you all are probably in the same boat. But that's one strategy you can do. If you're doing a safety school, you probably have a higher chance of getting in there. So you could take that risk and maybe do round 2 or maybe round 3. Round 3 makes me nervous personally, but you could wait around is my point.
All right. Thank you for sharing this strategy, Sonali. So, guys, this is an interesting strategy that in round 1 you apply to your top target schools where you really want to go and you think you have a chance, and you want to save the round 2 for your backup options where you think that yes, I will make a good career from this school as well, but that wouldn't be my first choice. So the second choices could be saved for your round 2. Yeah, but that means that you need to start early so that you can apply with strong by making strong applications to your round one target schools as well, right? So now let's come to Duke Fuqua, right? So why did you choose your MBA program to be at Duke?
So everyone's probably tired of me talking about culture, but that was the number one reason. I really wanted to be in an environment where I felt comfortable and safe to learn, because there's a lot of things that I'm encountering that are totally new to me. Like I haven't really had to look at a bunch of balance sheets before, or financial statements, especially for large companies. Looking at your own personal thing is different than looking at a huge company or something like that. And I wanted to make sure that I was in an environment where I felt safe to explore that and learn those things. And I can definitely say I felt that way too. Another thing is you learn from your classmates as much as you learn from your professors and your faculty. So I wanted to be around like-minded people who not only were very bright and intelligent, but who were also good people. And it's only been a week, but I definitely feel like I am in the right place for that. Another thing was location. My family is in Florida, and Fuqua is in North Carolina. If you're not too familiar with U.S. geography, it's about an 11-hour car drive. So the fact that I can be close to home is really nice. I mean, I know there's tons of fantastic schools on the West Coast that I was really interested in, but the distance was just too much for me personally. For some people, they go internationally, and that's not a consideration at all. So you just need to pick what works for you. And I talked about this before, but you want to make sure that your professional goals are aligned with what the school can offer you. So Fuqua is known for consulting. They place a lot of candidates there every single year. They have a really strong track record there. So I knew that I would have the right resources to prepare me, not only just from a placing candidates their perspective, but they have a really strong consulting prep program in terms of what we do to learn how to case with each other and all that. So I wanted to make sure that all those resources were in place for me when it comes time for recruiting.
Thank you for sharing that, Sonali. So these are like really strong reasons for why you chose Duke. And guys, make sure that when you decide for your MBA, you're also as convinced about your reasons as Sonali is for her MBA, and don't base your reasons on somebody else's suggestions, or just on some information on the school's website. So make sure to do your research and have really, really strong reasons. Thank you, Sonali. My next question is about the application process at Duke. Yeah, because this has been an interesting topic of discussion. Many people have asked us at GMATWhiz that what is the application process, and there are a lot of questions around Duke around Fuqua theme. And yeah, so what can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so I would love to take a minute to talk about the 25 random things essay, because I think that can be a source of anxiety for a lot of people. And I also think, that's like their hallmark essay. They've had that on their application for I don't know how many years. They have it every single year. Like that's the essay. But just broadly speaking, so I had 3 essays to do. I'm not sure if that's changing this year, but 25 random things was one, and probably will be one for the foreseeable future. There's also one about your professional goals, which is pretty standard across all college applications or MBA applications. So that shouldn't change much. And the third one is 3 ways you'll contribute at Fuqua. So let me talk about that briefly. A lot of times for other applications, it was kind of framed in a different way. Like, what will you participate in? Or, what clubs do you want to join? Things like that. This is 3 ways you will contribute at Fuqua. So it's not about being passive. Fuqua is really big about leadership, and it's very student-led. To give you an example, we had orientation last week. It was entirely organized and presented by second-year students who weren't even on campus last year and didn't have an orientation themselves. So it really, really is student-led. So Fuqua is looking for people who are leaders and who aren't afraid to speak up and to start something. So when you're talking about 3 ways you'll contribute, yes, you can talk about clubs and things like that. And if you see something that you wish was there but isn't, start it. Like, if Fuqua wants you to start it. And to me, that's like fantastic if you can include that in your application, because it shows that you are a leader. So yeah, that's what I'll say about that essay. Another thing, be specific in your essays. I feel like a lot of times people apply to these top schools and their criteria is it's ranked high and I'm just applying to highly ranked schools. And that is not it. That is not a good strategy. I mean, like I said, do look at rankings, but you want to make sure that it's a school that you actually care about and it's a school that you can see yourself thriving in. So have those specific insights. And the best way to have them is to talk to students, which I won't harp on that again, but you can only learn so much through a website. Whatever you'll get from actual conversations with students is going to be far more fruitful. So make the time for that. So now let's talk about the 25 random things. I personally love this essay. I had so much fun writing it. I don't think that was the consensus among other people. I know a lot of people get nervous about this. My strategy would be to start early with this. Don't wait till the last minute because it is stressful. If someone just right now told me you have a day to tell me 25 cool things about yourself, I wouldn't know where to start. So start early. I just kept a note on my phone, and every time I thought of just like a random fact, I put it down and aim to have more than 25. I think I probably had like 40 or 40 plus when I was before I narrowed it down, which sounds like a lot, but if you start with enough time and you compile this list, it's not. And the point is, some of those 40 things I had there were really not interesting. Some of them were really silly, or it's a good idea, but when you write it down, it's not like, it doesn't translate well on paper. That's fine. That's why you're aiming for more than 25. So take your time with that. Show it to other people. Let them give you feedback. Ask your friends and family, like, what do they think is cool about you? But to me, this essay sold me on Duke because it showed a commitment that they really are looking for well-rounded candidates. It's really big about culture fit there. And that sounds like a nice thing to say. A lot of schools say that, but the fact they chose their main essay to actually be about this demonstrated commitment on their part, to me at least, as a candidate. And that's a huge reason of why I picked this school. So yeah, I mean, that's all I'll say about that. I just want to, again, I think it really is a holistic process at Fuqua. I'm not on the admissions committee. I can't tell you anything like specifically. I can't say like, this is the reason I got in, but my personal perspective is it is really big on culture fit. I mean, I know people who applied here who had fantastic test scores and fantastic stats, but didn't get in. And my answer would be probably because they just didn't seem like they fit that Team Fuqua culture that they were looking for, and not because they were a bad candidate or anything like that. It's just that they're looking for that kind of team player person. So try and make sure that your 25 things demonstrates that.
Thank you very much, Sonali, for sharing the process in detail. Can you also explain a little bit about what is this theme Fuqua culture? Like, what is this? Because some people are tricked by this. Some students are overwhelmed with this. By how many times Fuqua is mentioned in the entire application, in all the questions and all. Yeah, so can you explain that what does it mean, like to an outsider? What is it?
It's really simple. It's just like being nice. It's looking out for each other. I mean, already if somebody the other day was stranded at the airport and like 10 people in our Slack group were like, oh, I'll come get you. We don't even know each other yet. Like it's a complete stranger. That's a simple example. But the point is we all really do look out for each other. If somebody's falling behind in a class, you reach out to them, help them out. If somebody's, overwhelmed and having a hard time with the adjustment, check in, make sure they're okay. These are like, simple things that we should all do for each other as humans anyways. But I see it a lot more so than I've ever seen it in any other point in my life. And it's really nice.
Thank you for sharing that, Sonali. So guys, when you come across the term Fuqua, what does it mean is that it means a community of nice people who are there for each other, who have each other's back, and who would do anything to just help the people in that community. So if you think that that you need to write an essay about it, then maybe being nice is something that you can start with, or how you help people in a community is something that you can think about writing, and then you can go on about that, and then you can also write about how you can contribute something new to the community. Sonali, I would want your comments on this, like, because that I have seen students struggling with this essay and struggling around this term, because this is not this is not a very common term which people use in day-to-day lives, right?
Yeah, I want to highlight something you said again. What you can start there, that's so important. If you see something that you that is not existing, but you want to start it, that's so great. Like I think that'll be a key point of your application. As I said, it's very student-led, and I see that all the time. A lot of the second years that spoke to us during orientation or during this first week, they're talking to us about clubs and programs that they themselves started. Another thing here about like what is Team Fuqua, it's not it's easy to be part of this like Fuqua bubble, we call it, and just only think about MBAs and only talk to your classmates and stuff like that. But we're part of a greater community. We're here in Durham, North Carolina, and one of the things we talked about is how we can give back to the community here. There's a lot of things happening in Durham. It's a city that's changing really rapidly. So what can we do to give back to this community? So that whole Team Fuqua spirit, it extends way beyond just the bubble of Fuqua. So again, it's a community of people who really care about their environment and where they are. And, basically, I would sum it up like this. It's about leaving a place better than where you found it.
That's a beautiful way to summarize it, Sonali. Thank you very much. And now we move to the next question. What are the types and what are the criteria for different kinds of scholarships at Fuqua?
Yes, so MBA scholarships are difficult, as I'm sure you guys know. So a lot of different affinity groups have scholarships, and so that's not Fuqua specific, but I would definitely look into those. For example, I'm a Forte Fellow. If you're not familiar with the Forte Foundation, that's for women who are looking to pursue their MBAs. In addition to having a scholarship, which is wonderful, you also get access to a network of women, and there are panels and workshops. There was a Forte conference about a month or two ago, which was fantastic. So you get access to this whole kind of network, which is great. So definitely recommend that. I know for Fuqua there's something called a Keller Scholar. I don't have too much information on it. I do know that it's very prestigious, and I'm pretty sure it's a full ride if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on any of that, but that's all information that's easily found on the website. So I would look into those too.
Thank you, Sonali. So can you also guide our audience a little bit on that? What makes a student qualify or not qualified for the scholarships, and like some of the criteria? For example, some schools look at the fact that how much does a candidate really need a scholarship to support his or her education, or some schools might value their GMAT scores a bit more while giving out the scholarships. So some of the things which are very commonly known in the Fuqua community about the scholarships.
Right, so I don't have like too much information on this. I know that a lot of the merit-based scholarships, I'm fairly certain they were need blind, meaning they didn't take into account, what your financial situation was, or if you had loans and things like that. And then there are also, of course, financial aid packages and loans and things like that available, which is different from a merit-based scholarship. I know for Fuqua, they actually made it very easy. On their application page, there was a tab that said, I think it's like scholarships or something like that. And they had a whole list of different scholarships, and you just had to click a checkbox if you were eligible. So, for me, I clicked the check on, I'm so sorry for the noise. I just had to click a check on Forte because I'm a woman. I applied for that. There are a couple of different ones. I can't remember them anymore, but they didn't apply to me. But yeah, they made it very, very easy. It was just a checklist.
Right. Thank you, Sonali. So let's move to the next question. How is the MBA life at Fuqua? You already described that it is student-led, but if you have to combine the academic, cultural, and the career-centric verticals of the MBA life, how would you describe each of these, and then the overall environment?
So I'm only a week in, so this is my perspective thus far. And also, we're only first years on campus for the most part right now. So in September, when the second years come back and all that happens, I'm sure it'll be very different. But yes, it is incredibly student-led. Most of the information we have is actually coming from second years. That's not to say our faculty isn't involved. It sounds like I might be insinuating that. Not at all. Everybody is very available to us. My point being is there is plenty of opportunities for leadership growth and things like that. There's also a lot going on. There are so many clubs. They thankfully haven't kicked in yet because our classes have been quite a bit this first week. But what I like about Fuqua is, so we have a summer term. I know that not every school has that. As far as I understand, actually, a lot of my friends who are in MBA programs haven't started yet. But we have 3 classes that they They go through the month of August, and that's the whole summer term. So they're mostly theory-based. They're things like leadership and things like that. Lots of reading, but it's a great way to get your feet wet back in that school type of environment, because it's very different and new for a lot of us. It's been years since we've been in school, so it's a great way to ease yourself in before all the clubs and recruiting and all that starts big time in the fall.
Nice, good to know. And when you talk about the clubs, then what are the major clubs who lead most of the experience, who lead most of the student experience there, and what kind of work do they do, like for student development and also for industry interaction? Can you guide us a little bit on that?
Yeah, so we have 3 different types of clubs, I would say. So there's professional clubs, so that's where you'll find things like consulting club, finance club, marketing and management club, things like that. Then we have affinity clubs, so that's where you would find like Asian club, women, whatever affinity group you're part of. Those are the ones that I'm joining. And then we have, I guess, just like fun clubs, which are really important too. I know sometimes when we come from that like very type A academic background, which I think a lot of us do, we tend to laser focus on, how will this help my professional goals, and let me just do that. But the fun clubs are just as important, right? Business school is about making relationships, not only with recruiters and companies and all that, but with your classmates as well. So the fun clubs are things like ski and snowboard club, wine club, beer club. Durham has lots of breweries and things like that here. So those are really important to join too. And there are a million different ways to get involved. Like each of these clubs have second-year cabinets and first-year cabinets. So that's a way to get involved. Also, so I mentioned there's maybe about 500 of us, so we're divided into sections. We have 6 sections, 1 through 6. So there's about 75 of us in each section. So you have section cabinets. You can be involved in that way. You can be involved in unofficial ways, like you might not have an actual leadership title, but you can still help lead clubs. So again, a million different ways to hone your leadership skills here.
Nice. And when you talk about the fun clubs, then don't forget to mention your own music club.
Of course, the music club. There is actually a club called Arts at Fuqua, and another one called Fuqua Vision, which is kind of like a improv type club, like SNL, but less funny is how they described it. But I actually think their sketches are hilarious. So yeah, there's things for everyone here. And again, if there's something for you or something you wish that was there but isn't, you can start it. And I guarantee you there will be like 20 people behind you, like ready to support and make it happen.
All right. Just a follow-up question on the clubs. Because you joined the Fuqua program to find a career in consulting. So, what kind of work does the consulting club does, and what kind of impact do these activities of the consulting club have on the students?
So I know that all are prepped for casework. I think we follow a program called Roadmap, if I remember that correctly. And that is all done through the consulting club. So like there's no class or anything that makes you a consultant. It's all done through this extracurricular club. And I think it's actually the second years who lead us through that program. So again, student led. And I don't know too much about it yet because I'm trying to take it one day at a time because there's a lot happening here. But I do know that, every time I've done a lot of the consulting pre-MBA programs over the summer. And anytime you mention that, I'm going to Fuqua, but is there anything I should do to prepare from now? They're like, oh no, you're great. You're in Fuqua. Like you're in the right hands. You're going to be perfect. So I have full faith that they will prepare us the way we need to be.
Thank you for sharing that, Sonali. So guys, if you want to start a career in consulting, then you would be aware that the interview process of these consulting firms do have a case study or a case cracking interview session. So the consulting club at Duke will prepare the students for that. So you can talk about this in your learning objectives at Fuqua if you're trying to write an application for this school. So keep that in mind. Next question would be, what kind of post MBA career opportunities are there for the students at the MBA program at Duke Fuqua? So how can you guide us in that?
Perfect. I'm glad this slide is next because I wanted to say, I keep talking about consulting because that's what I'm interested in, but Fuqua is by no means all consultants. Anything you want to do, you can do here. And that's kind of the great thing about going to a school like this. There's really no industry I can think of that you couldn't be successful in if you came to Fuqua. So I know Amazon is a huge recruiter here. There's so many people who want to go into tech. So that's there. We are divided into teams called C-Lead teams, about 7 people, and you do all your core classes and all your projects with this group of people. So you better hope it's a good group of people. But so many of the people on my team all want to go into iBanking. So that's there. There's people who want to go into impact investing, a lot of social impact people here. I mean, I really can't think of anything that you can't do if you come to Fuqua. It's just that your job search and your recruitment timeline might look a little bit different. So iBanking and consulting tend to happen a little bit earlier. And that's not a Fuqua specific thing. That's just how recruiting timelines work. If you are going into entrepreneurship and you're looking for more of a startup, then it's more of a custom timeline, because it's not like small startups are going to be recruiting on campus, on any campus really. So that's more up to you, and you need to drive that a little bit more. So I would say if you're going into entrepreneurship, you probably have like a little bit more work to do. But again, that's not Fuqua specific. That's just the nature of that field. But yeah, there's our career management center. We call it the CMC. I've not worked with them extensively yet, but they've been doing monthly panels since like April or May, I want to say, to get us prepared. And we just had our first class with them last week. They are so wonderful and so approachable and just kind people. Like, they have the air of, if you're nervous about anything, which we all are nervous about getting jobs after all this, they're incredibly like approachable and ready to talk to you. So definitely feel like we're in good hands here.
Thank you for such a detailed description of what kind of jobs people try to find after their MBA from Duke, and also about how the career services they help the students. Just a follow-up question on that, Sonali. So what is the job search process? What does this job search process look like? Like, does it? Can you tell us about the starting and the ending points? Like, does it start with students networking with the prospect recruiters through LinkedIn, or the school conducts some kind of career fairs and the companies come to the campus to give spot offers to the students, or it is more of a student-led process in which a candidate would network with a bunch of companies, or either through LinkedIn or some other professional networking site, and then make applications by going to the job portals of those companies and then do the interview with the companies? Is it more of a student-led process, or the campus really facilitates that?
Great question. I'm going to answer based on conjecture and what I've heard, because I haven't done it yet myself. Yeah. But short answer is it is campus led. So like, for example, right now they are strongly dissuading us: do not reach out, do not go on LinkedIn and just find every Fuqua alum and start cold calling them. There's a time to do that, but that time is not now. And there is a process in place. Like, it's a well-oiled machine. They've been doing this every year for the past however many years. So there's no need to jump the gun. If you're going to a school like Fuqua or any school in this boat, there's a system in place that's there for you. So you don't need to go on your own. And then even if you are doing something like entrepreneurship, where you are conducting a custom search and it is more like you're the one leading it, your CMC will still work with you to do that. So it's not like you should just start. I will say though, timelines keep moving up more and more. So I myself, I did so many pre-consulting programs this summer. I ended up in coffee chats with a bunch of people, and I'd never even done that before. I wasn't necessarily going into that expecting it. So if you're in that situation though, the CMC was really great with, even though you're not a student yet and you're not on campus yet, reach out to us, let us know what's happening. If a company starts to like move the timeline along a little bit quicker than you're ready for it, that never happened to me, but I remember talking with a coach and he said, just give us a call, let us know, and we'll give you the right wording and everything to make sure that you're not tied down to a situation, especially when you haven't really explored all your options yet. So they'll walk you through it. Another thing that makes this difficult is COVID, right? So normally these recruiters and these companies would come to campus. It seems like the consensus this year is there might be more of a hybrid model happening, because they just realize it's either too risky to send their representatives out here, or there's just no need to. And then also becomes difficult, if you have a local recruiter, so someone lives in Durham, so they come to Duke, but they don't live in I don't know, Virginia, so then they don't come to Darden. Like, that's not fair. So I think the question of whether things will be virtual or in person is still very much up in the air. that changes a lot.
Thank you, Sonali. What you said, I think that will give peace of mind to some of our viewers, because this is one of the biggest questions the students have when they move out of India. Because in India, the placement services or the career services are mostly led by the schools, and when the students move to the West, then it is more on the individuals to find what they really want to do. But this kind of support from the school during an MBA program, I think this really gives a lot of cushion to the students to start their career in a new geography, in a different kind of industry. Thank you very much for
Yeah,
sharing.
you will not be on your own. That's Team Fuqua. You will not be on your own.
That. Yeah, that's again a plus point for that. All right, Sonali. So moving on, I would request you to tell us what are the key lessons from this webinar that you would want our audience to take from your session.
Yeah, so I'm going to read what I have right there, which is, don't get caught up in trying to be something you're not. Own your story, celebrate what makes you different, and that's what's going to get you in. And I strongly believe that, and wish I believed that a little bit more when I started my application process. I was so nervous that, I knew how hard I worked at being a musician and running my record label, but a lot of people have misconceptions about what it actually is to be an artist. And I was so nervous that I wouldn't be able to translate that, and people would just have these stereotypes and I would get in nowhere. That's absolutely not what happened at all. I can honestly say that every single person I've interacted with at Fuqua, from faculty to students, when they hear about my background, they're just really excited by it and so supportive of it. Like I've actually had more people be supportive of my music here in business school than like any other part of my life, other than family, of course, which is so cool. So if there's something that makes you different, that's probably why you're going to get in. It's not what's going to hold you back. So find those unique things. We all have them, and celebrate them, and you'll land where you're supposed to.
Thank you for such a nice message, Sonali, and I hope that that's what the students try to do, because what our experience has been while we have worked as consultants with the students is that students really try to bring out something in their application which they are not, and hence the reason why most of the applications end up getting rejected. And that's what we try to tell them, that hey, you need to work on it. You need to just glorify your strengths. Just tell them how great you are, and that's what you're telling us. Thank you very much for that. So with
another
that,
thing I just want to add real quick is there is no more attractive quality in a candidate than someone who is just really self-aware and content with who they are. So obviously that's a lot easier said than done, but if that can be you, you're great, not only in application, just like in life. So aim for that.
Those are really wise words, Sonali. Thank you very much for sharing that. And with that, let's move to the next part of the session, which is taking questions from our audience. We already have a bunch of questions here. So first one is for Nikhil. I'm not sure whether Nikhil is still here with us. Yeah, Nikhil is here. All right.
Yeah.
So first question is for Nikhil. Any specific countries you would say in Europe that are better than the others? Okay. So I'm trying to keep the EU together. Keeping everything in mind, ROI, college rankings, and post-graduation jobs.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I don't think it's country specific when we talk about EU. You need to look at probably the top colleges or the top options that you have in EU, and then look for their the fee that they charge, and the kind of when you go to the employment reports, you understand what sort of returns that you can expect. I would obviously root for ESA. Right, other schools that you can look for is they are INSEAD, HEC, LBS, Oxford, ISADE. So I would encourage you to go and read about these 5 schools, see their employment reports, and then make a choice on whether that ROI that you are talking about makes sense to you. I would not name any specific country, because that's not really important when you talk about moving to Europe. Even if you're studying in, let's say, France, the whole of Europe is open to you for work, and same goes if you're working, let's say, if you're studying in Spain. So, and no specific country, but look for colleges.
Yeah, and just to add a bit of a statistics numbers to that, is that average expense that you incur in most of the European schools is between 60,000 euros to, let's say, 90,000 or 100,000 euros, and the average salary that you get after MBA, like not going by the websites of those schools, but a realistic figure would be something in between uh, 60,000 euros to, let's say, 120,000 euros. So there goes your ROI if you're talking about, but it varies according to the industry, according to your own previous experience as well. Right. Thank you, Rahul, for taking this question. Next question is is mm, is for uh, I think it's for Sonali. For a career in international civil service, is there any school that regularly provides placement or networking with United Nations and its auxiliaries? So I don't know, Sonali, whether you will be taking this question or not. So
I don't know
yeah.
too much. I do know that I just spoke with a student at Duke who is going to do something actually in international civil service. So she did it. So I'm sure there must be some systems in place to help with that. But I just don't have personal experience to shed too much light on it.
All right. So Ankit, you can share this question with us over our email address at GMATWhiz. We can try to help you out, or you can connect connect with us offline, and yes, we can try to help you out for this question. This is a very particular question about a particular role in a particular organization. So we'll move on to the next question, which is from Anish. There are many schools like Kellogg, Tuck, which are known for launching, known for their expertise in consulting industry. So why Duke? Why was it right fit for you?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Duke is not the only school that is known for placing people into consulting. What I will say though is you want to look at the employment reports for each of the schools that you're interested in and actually see how many placements there are. I don't remember the exact schools, but I know one thing that surprised me is there were some top 10 schools that I was looking at that actually had, that are fantastic schools, but they actually had lower placement rates compared to schools like Darden and Kellogg and Fuqua and things like that. So don't just use like the ranking as the end all be all. Actually look at the employment reports and see what those numbers say. But as for why I picked Fuqua, I won't go into it again, but it was largely the culture, which is what attracted me to it.
Thank you for your answer, Sonali. And another question is also from the same viewer. Does Fuqua provide opportunities to work on actual consulting projects during your time in your MBA program?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a program called FCCP, which I believe stands for Fuqua Client Consulting Practicum. And I believe I think you apply for it in the fall and you can start in your spring of first year, if I remember those deadlines correctly. But short answer, yes, it's there. And you get to actually work with programs in the city to work on consulting projects. So that's something I will definitely be taking advantage of.
Thank you, Sonali, for your answer. Next question is from a viewer called Kabir. Hi, Sonali. How is Duke for entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. Are there any platforms or support provided to build something from scratch? Are there students in your cohort who are in? And okay, so this is the second question from the same viewer. Are there any students in your cohort who are in their mid-30s?
Yes. So first part of that question. Yes, there are people here who are entrepreneurs and either want to work in startups or start their own project. I haven't looked into that extensively because that's not my personal goal at this time, but I do know that there are systems in place to help with that. As I mentioned, you will be conducting more of a custom search during your recruitment process, so it'll be a little bit less straightforward for you, but they still, like, there is a CMC coach who is dedicated to people going this route. So you're in good hands and you will be supported through that process. So yes, that's absolutely there. There's a program we just had called Innovator Spark, which is geared towards entrepreneurs. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend, so I can't share too much detail about it. But yes, there are definitely programs here for someone with those interests. And are there students who are in their mid-30s? Yes, absolutely. I will say the average is probably people who are like 28 maybe, and you can actually see like the exact stats on the Fuqua website. They might not have updated with class of 2023 yet, but you can see last year's there. But yeah, there's people of all ages, all ethnicities, everything here. So yes.
And Kabir, just to add on to that, like if you go to the school's website and see that the average age is, let's say, 29 or 30 or 27 or 28 or 31, So again, that doesn't represent the entire cohort over there, because that is the average of 500 people over there. So about 100 people will be between 32 and 35, something like that. And 100 people will be younger, let's say between 27 and 29 or something like that. So it is better that you reach out to alumni or to the to people who are currently in the cohort there, and then you will have a better idea about it. And there are two more questions. One is from Rahul again. As Sonali pointed out, Fuqua is incredibly student led, and there is a focus on you being a good person and a role model. Any specific advice on how can I show that in my application? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it, actually. A great way to do that is in your 25 things essay. And another point I'd like to make there is I think there's a tendency to like have that be an extension of your resume. It does not need to be. And in fact, it shouldn't be. There's plenty of ways to show that you're a good person. Maybe you volunteer somewhere and that's like an actual thing on your resume, but having resume builders is not the point. You can show that, you know, for example, for me, I'm very, very family minded. My family is like my everything. And that's a huge core component of who I am. And that was definitely one of my 25 facts. That's not something that I'd put on my resume, right? Like it's not like a volunteer organization or something like that, but it's a huge part of who I am. So yeah, 25 things is a great place to put all those kinds of things to show that you are a well-rounded candidate.
Okay, so that 25 things essay, from which people try to run away. So that essay can be used to your advantage, guys. So make sure to put in the interesting things over there and try to take advantage of it. Okay, so we have the last question from Ankit. He's the same person who asked about his interest to the position in United Nations. I agree that there aren't much schools that have a direct placement link to the UN. So will it be smart to avoid those aspirations on my MBA application?
I can give my opinion on this. I would say no. I would do the research first and make sure. I mean, yeah, you have a good point. So if your goal is to do that and your number one school has absolutely nothing in place to get you there, then yes, maybe I wouldn't mention that, because then that you run the risk of the adcom thinking like, wow, what a great applicant. Too bad we don't have anything for him. So in that case, yes, I would maybe avoid that, but don't. Do the research first, because if that's what you want to do, that's really valid. So don't discount that.
All right.
Also, I'd add something to this. Like, if the goal is to get into UN and the school is not able to provide that, then I don't see a point of going into that school. Or let's say, if the MBA is not able to fulfill that, doing an MBA for that matter. So it really depends upon what your goal is. I don't think the goal is to do an MBA. Like, MBA aids you to reach to your goal. So see what your goal is, and if the school is not able to fulfill that, even if it's the best school in the world, there's no point of going there. Yeah,
Rightly said, Nikhil. So Ankit, yep, you already have the answers. So I thank you very much, both Sonali and Nikhil, for finding time to take this webinar with us, and yeah, thanks for joining us.
welcome.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. So we just have a little bit of our session left. So guys, after I'll explain to you about GMATWhiz application service. So we work on your story formation. This starts with who you are and why do you want to do your MBA, and how will you lead your life after MBA. So everything is covered in this part. Then we help you in school selection. And as Nikhil described, the detailed process of which all factors you should be focusing on while deciding for your schools. And as Sonali also described why she chose Duke for her MBA. So we help you decide which schools you should be applying to, and also as Sonali described, that you should have a safety net. So we also help you decide not only your target schools but also some of the other schools where you have stronger selection chances, and yeah, in combination with your target schools. So after that, we review your essay. So we provide 2 to 3 essay reviews, and then we work on your resume, and we also give you tips on how you should be connecting with your recommenders to write your letter of recommendations. And then we help you in interview prep. We try to give you about 2 mock interviews, and also tips for your virtual interviews, which are very much in trend these days. By that I mean, many schools go for a computer-led interview. For example, platforms such as Kira. So we also give you tips on that. And we have different packages. We have 3 schools packages and 5 schools, and you can also work with us for more number of applications if you want to. And yeah, so there is a sale going on right now because GMATWhiz currently had 7 students in 7 days who scored more than 700 on their GMAT exam. So make sure to check this out on our website, gmatwiz.com. And if you are interested to have a free admission consulting session with us, then make sure to log on to our website and go to the calendar link and book a slot for yourself. And this session will be with one of our co-founders who really can tell you a lot more than I can about your application process in your target B schools. And with that, I will say bye-bye to all of our audience. And I would like to thank Nikhil and Sonali again for joining us today. And goodbye, everyone. Have a great weekend.